Greetings, Guardians. My name is Taco. I've had this idea for a while. If you don't know what the Uplift Coven was, basically, it's like Neomuna's own Dark Age, in which some Neomuni wanted to become Cloud Striders. Because, it's kind of like the Spartan training in Halo. Pretty large group is trained, only a select few make it through the process. In the case of the Neomuni, only one person is chosen to go through augmentation. This Uplift Coven went against that and sought out the augments anyway, regardless of who was chosen. And I've had a suspicion about Neomuna that they might not completely trust the Guardians just yet, and may seek to push the Vanguard's military occupation out of the city, despite the fact that there's still an extremely dangerous pyramid vessel parked over their city. Which, by the way, we've hardly explored that ship. That ship is huge, We haven't fully explored any of the pyramids we've been through. And yet, I'm pretty sure Calus's ship is, well, maybe it's not bigger. It definitely rivals the size of other pyramid ships. The Neomuni are a little reluctant to call us Guardians, too. They still say Warlords. It's clear that there isn't a total synergy between the humanity on Earth and the one on Neomuna. There's a clear divide between the two. Sure, they might have lent us a Cloud Strider and maybe some weapons for the final shape, but truth is, who isn't going to contribute to preventing the end of everything, right? That's just, common sense, I guess. But that divide is what I think could lead to a new Uplift Coven. Feeling threatened by the Guardian's power and using the death of the Cloud Strider Rohan to push the need for more Cloud Striders. At first I thought this could have been led by a Maya Sundaresh exo or something, or maybe a cryogenically frozen Maya, who knows? It's really up to Bungie how convoluted they want to get. They could get real convoluted real fast. But since the Neomuni are in some kind of suspended animation, it kind of makes sense that maybe there's some sort of preserved Maya somewhere. However, given the fact that Maya is probably, and most likely is, the conductor, it might not be her alone. Could be a coalition of some sorts. My second thought would be Clovis. He sent out that message to himself at the end of Season of the Seraph saying they know when they found Neomuna. It might have been about his own plot to become humanity's new war mind tech god or whatever, but in some likelihood it could have been an effort to hide Neomuna in some way. This could mean he might have been planning something on Neomuna, and given Clovis's role as creator of a ton of important technology, and his name being attached to Siva, which could be a primitive version of the Quicksilver on Neomuna. Clovis didn't invent it, but it is still under his own corporation. And Neomuna, being like a preservation of what the Golden Age might have looked like, it's possible they might have had some imagery and history that may lead them to see Clovis as someone worthy of leading them like their founders. Since Neomuna is still very like a corporate thing, it's a cyberpunk city. However, when I was getting ready to talk about the idea of a new Uplift Coven, it occurred to me that there is a new threat that could be on the horizon. Or rather, an old enemy on the rise. And this is where it gets interesting. Lysander of the Concordat, who during the events of the City Age, rounded up his forces to stage a coup against the Consensus to force the Vanguard out of the tower. We know this from the Bannerfall Grimoire, which I'll be discussing shortly. But first, during the 2024 Guardian games, we received the new hoverboards. These skimmers brought with them this lore tab. Do dragonflies do loop-de-loops? You're telling me these skimmers just turned up? Prakesh prods gingerly at one of the boards with his foot. It floats gently in place at the center of the storeroom. A donation for the games, Spider says distractedly. Is that unusual? He grunts, displeased. and gestures sharply. Arha moves the painting slightly left of its current position, wobbling precariously atop his chair. Usually there's a bet involved, Prakash explains, or it's official Vanguard merchandise. This almost looks like one of those Neomuna skyboards though. And the Vanguard wouldn't be passing that around. Well then, it seems we've lucked out this year. The right, Arha. Arha grumbles but obeys, hefting the frame into position. I think that did it, Prakash says, squinting at the painting. He doesn't see the point of it. A series of splotchy purple flowers along a dirt path, indistinct trees, but Spider is gazing up at it like it's made of pure ether. Your donor leave a name at least? Spider sighs and reaches for a datapad. Let's see. 2 shipments, personal vehicle, skimmer, gift to the city. Ah, right here, Concordat. Spider looks over at Prakash, who shrugs. No idea who that is. We've already discovered that the skimmers came from none other than the Concordat. And in the lore tab added from the Taken King, we hear about Bannerfall, describing the events surrounding the multiplayer map, surrounding Lysander and the Concordat. Lysander and the Concordat mark the most recent example of a city political faction rising in opposition to the consensus. This site marks a legendary battle where New Monarchy Guardians rose to deliver the final blow to the Concordat, unraveling the war effort Lysander sought to bring up against the Vanguard. Lord Shex has commandeered the area, not only to commemorate this last stand, but as a reminder of the city's solidarity against those who seek to undermine the extreme efforts and sacrifice we make together to keep our peace. This is what leads to Lysander's exile from the city. This could link us back to the season of the Splicer, when the factions fled the tower. Who knows? Could the Concordat have sabotaged the device, causing Lakshmi 2's death? Sure, the device was risky and not super reliable. And I mean, using any Vex tech is like playing with fire. But here's the connection. The Vex attack happened in the Elixni camp, leading to Maya's death. Well, Lakshmi 2's death. And what a coincidence that the skimmers went through the Elixni before entering the tower, as we read in the lore tab. Could these skimmers just be the tip of the iceberg of a greater conspiracy involving the Concordat and Neomuni, probably making a new Uplift Coven? An anti-Vanguard sentiment resides within the Concordat and among some of the Neomuni, hence the reports the Neomuni had against us regarding Vanguard occupation during Lightfall. This secret covenant held together by old rivalries that now, after facing absolute extinction, is made apparent. Assuming skimmers weren't just some last-minute addition because of final shape delays, that means it would have been released during the first episode of Final Shape. The skimmers would have surfaced when the conductor, aka Maya Sundaresh, would have made her appearance, a character with ties to Neomuna. And since Lakshmi 2 is a copy of Maya Sundaresh, this would also mean they would harbor a personal grudge against the Guardians and the Vanguard, further connecting the motives between Lysander and the Neomuni via Maya Sundaresh. We know that the Guardian games was supposed to be during episode echoes, so it might have been the intent to link all these events together. Do you need more evidence for these connections? In a grimoire card from House of Wolves called Osiris, there's a conversation saying, "You were a mighty warrior. I watched you at 6 fronts, and heeded the call of Saint 14 to appoint you Vanguard Commander. Even when the Concordat claimed to have records proving you were a Golden Age experiment, misincarnated as a human by an inept ghost, Saint 14 assured me you were just a man without much patience for obfuscation." So the Concordat already has a track record of going against specifically Saint 14 and Osiris. They may view their unity as something that could get in their way. And now, the Lakshmi connection. Then, in Season of the Splicer, we hear much friction between Osiris and Lakshmi too, as well as the whispering into Saint 14's ear. Granted, this was before we knew Osiris was Savathun. If you didn't look at the leaks, seriously, please stop leaking plot points. Please stop leaking plot points like this. And stop commenting leaks on Twitter and whatever, because I didn't look at any leaks back then and thought, hey, Osiris is acting kind of weird. But then some dude commented on that and said, well, we already know he's Savathun, as if the leak was the proper way to learn that. Anyway, getting back on track. My point is, Lakshmi thought that was Osiris. So there was probably some old resentments on her part against Osiris. Now, the conductor, who's totally Maya Sundaresh, is once again planting seeds of distrust between the time-broken lovers. Therefore, proving that Maya Sundaresh and Lysander's Concordat may have a shared interest in getting these two separated. And since Maya has this Vex connection, how do we know she wasn't the one to have orchestrated the simulation Saint 14 was stuck in with the martyr mind? Perhaps it really is our saint, and the confusion being brought forward is purely some sort of psychological warfare. There's the transmission from last week when Osiris and Saint 14 have different memories of the first time they said I love you. But we know that as displayed by Clovis Bray's experiments on the Exo, that not every memory an Exo has can be totally reliable, because it is possible to tamper in their memories to make sure that they only remember what you want them to remember. There's a lot of missing time between the disappearance of Saint 14 and his return in Season of the Dawn, so there's no telling what kind of other experiments they might have conducted over Saint. I know this all sounds very corkboardy, and I'm definitely reaching with these bits. However, look at these lore entries. Look at the history we've had. The plot thickens. We're only getting started with this Vex plot. However, Maya's ability to manipulate Vex might also be at play here. Sure, it's the first time we've seen the compelled Vex in Episode of Echoes, and the compelled Vex are a cause of the Echo directly, you know? However, Maya had experimented on the Vex for much time during the Golden Age, and the city of Neomuna was hidden by the Vex's interference with the planet's own magnetic field, shielding the residents of Neomuna from prying eyes anywhere in the galaxy. So that makes me ask, why would the Vex have an interest in shielding Neomuna? It's not like they ever made it to the Veil's containment chamber. So clearly, they weren't looking for control. Simple. It's really easy. The Vex were used for population control, making sure the Neomuni population didn't get too big. But they couldn't just let the herd thin out entirely. So, having an enemy like the Vex was a valid excuse for the Neomuni to develop the Cloud Striders. An excuse to continue experiments using the Veil's energy and the Quicksilver to further find ways to manipulate the Vex. Therefore leading to events like the Uplift Coven, an event most likely used to further advance citizens to eventually take Earth by force. This is Maya and Lysander's true plan. It makes sense, you know? As crazy as it sounds, I think there is a seemingly secret alliance that is going to be the start of a new war fought between Earth and Neomuna. A new Uplift Coven, possibly promising augmentations and enhancements to those who swear fealty to the Uplift Concord. And now my trump card. The final nail in the coffin and my ultimate evidence for this secret alliance. A plot to destroy the greatest duo of all time. the greatest titan who ever lived, and the smartest man alive. One last connection between the Concordat and Maya/Lakshmi. When the Concordat got kicked out of the consensus, which faction do you think took their place? Do you know? Do you know which faction stole their spot? None other than the Future War Cult. Yep, that's right. I left the biggest direct connection for last. It's all a conspiracy to trade power between each other until finally reaching the peak of their schemes and achieving absolute power over the people of Seoul. Think about it. Future War Cult was the faction to cause the most problems during Season of the Splicer. So it's an internal sabotage that they've been enacting for years, right? The faction wars, the faction rallies, the friction involving the planning of a coup in Season of the Splicer, and then the endangerment of the entire city via the device, which could have been an intentional way of maybe getting Maya Sundaresh into the Vex network via Lakshmi 2. I know, this is super reachy, but still, I think it's worth thinking about. It's all just a conspiracy, and in Season of the Splicer, just like that, by kicking out the factions, we've recreated the fall of the Concordat. It's interesting how all these events that are seemingly unrelated are able to be connected in such a direct way. Two insurrections against two governing bodies, a play for power across the solar system. Why shouldn't more people be Cloudstriders, they asked. It's the same reason why Lysander gave us the Sparrow in Rise of Iron. Because everyone wants something. Greater speed, a rare weapon, a secret. Learn what it is and use it. And just like that. And that's why I think a new Uplift Coven and or Concordat rebellion will be happening. Thanks for watching. This is very reachy, very corkboardy, but I just think it's interesting how you can kind of infer a lot of information if you see the connections in the lore between the Concordat, Future War Cult, Maya/Lakshmi 2. That, it's the promise of power. They can't make guardians, so probably inspired by the warlords of the Dark Age, they built a narrative against the Guardians, assuming that the Shadow Legion and the Witness would never make their way to Neomuna. However, after Season of the Seraph, they were just completely caught off guard, so they were directly exposed to it. So now they're looking for other ways to claim their power. Giving gifts to Guardians during Guardian games, using the Echo to control the Vex, and possibly one day promising new power to those who swear fealty to them. But that's about it. That's my conspiracy theory on the Uplift Coven. And I hope you liked this video. And thanks for watching. Have a great week. See you in the next one. I hope you liked the bit in the beginning of it. Perutasya Arashtra. I'll see you Starside. Alright, so I was gonna attach this to the other video, but honestly I think I'd rather just make a small video to be like a, I don't know, DLC for the last one. But like, interesting vocabulary I noticed while playing this week's Battlegrounds. The Minotaur. It says uplifted. They're uplifted. And we already know the conductor is Maya because it's obvious. You know, we only have Ishtar collective iconography everywhere. And, you know, we know the MSUN 12 attachment in the Insight Terminus. So, like, this is just connecting her to the Uplift Coven. And her being involved with the Future War Cult connects her to the Consensus and the Concordat, because they took the Concordat's place. So, a new Uplift Coven is coming. It is. This has to be it. You know? And if it's gonna be going with... if it's gonna go through that path of going through uplifting the Vex and then possibly extending that uplift ideology to other people around the system, we could have some sort of return to the Concordat because of its connection with the skimmers to Neomuna. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it real quick, short, 2.5 minute video. But thanks for watching the last videos, and I can't believe that one of those got to 5K. That's insane. But yeah, I'm just making this stuff for fun, and it's really exciting seeing that my ideas might not be too far off the possibility. So I'm reaching, but it's not a bad reach, all right? It's not a bad reach, because I'm gambling with this idea, all right? So, you know, I'll put a card here on the end cards, so check out that last video so you can understand what I'm saying about this. But yeah, Uplift Coven, Concordat, Maestro Duresh, Lysander, all coming back, and it's gonna start with the Vex. So, see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Man, I went to talk about Coldstone last night and got the biggest headache ever. I got a really long script for this one. I might actually ad-lib some of these parts now that I'm recording. As far as exotic missions go, I think Overture is a decently entertaining mission. First time I ever day one complete an exotic mission. In terms of story, I really like it. It's not really as dramatic, nor does it have the same level of gravitas that something like Whispered has, but overall it's a solid mission. The puzzles were a bit simple. It has like a Portal 2 type of vibe. The whole secret underground lab vibe and going around in circles looking for the solution. It's really fun. I personally began overthinking it. I started overthinking when they introduced the portal modules and spent too much time on that room. The answer was a lot more simple than I expected. I've yet to go on a second run to explore that new room that opens up later on, but I will do so soon. Reviewing an exotic mission in Destiny feels like reviewing an album. I don't think it's very fair to review it in a day, so that's not what I'm gonna do, since a lot of these missions require second playthroughs to get the full experience. During the final boss, though, I will say that the shield glitched and became unbreakable, leading me to have to jump off to reset him. Of my 14 deaths, only 13 of them count. Another thing I was kind of thrown off by was that I kind of expected a wyvern in the encounter. Like, it didn't make sense to me to reward a wyvern style weapon and then follow to deliver another Hydra boss. I think it was an entertaining boss fight, but it still felt like a misstep for that reason. I just think we have enough Hydra and Minotaur bosses. I would have mind if they had, like, remastered, like, Vex Hydra from D1, you know, the Nexus, because it would be thematically at home I can really appreciate the art of this mission because there's this part that looks like you're walking inside of a piano, and it really sells the size of it. There's also some areas that I think were callbacks to Destiny 1 strikes, specifically the Venus ones. And I mean this in terms of layout and design, because they kind of reflect the structure that's found on Venus. I spent about 92 minutes playing through it, but I did tend to wander a lot because I like looking at the environment. Like I mentioned, the piano part, it feels like you're crawling through this giant piano, and it kind of gives Whisper vibes, but that's about where those vibes end. They don't really follow you throughout the whole dungeon. There's just like an outer layer of the conductor's domain that feels whispery, but it doesn't keep that up during the rest of the mission, which I kind of wish they did, but it's good that they're going for like their own thing in this mission. That being said, it kind of helps solidify, that one little moment does solidify the connection that I had made from Whisper to the conductor, you know, and maybe even the Uplift Coven. I don't mean for that to be a plug, but check out my other videos to see what I'm referring to, because this could be a significant plot point in the future for both Neomuna's and Earth's ruling powers. I'm not going to cover everything in this video. However, I do want to talk about what I think is the biggest revelation, and that is the presence of Chioma Essie. Not just one, but maybe thousands among the simulated versions of her. Maya is aware of our presence and talks to us directly, Quaria style, down here in her domain, where she reformats Vex and such. She's also attempting to merge and create some kind of Vex Exo hybrid, a Vexo, if you will. Design-wise, these kind of remind me of the Dark Makers or KG bots from Jack 3, and this is like exactly what I've wanted to happen for the Vex. I always thought they could have done this with Clovis, since he's kind of got that whole machine immortality thing going for him, metaphysical transcendence via digital consciousness. You know, we don't know exactly what Clarity was, if it was actually a dissenter talking to Clovis, or if it was the Witness or the Winnowers themselves, but it does seem Clarity would be silent now. This actually sounds like an important bit of information that we can come back for another video. What's up with Clarity Control now that the Witness is dead? Does that hold any power still? That's an important question, but let's get back on track. But I do think it's a lot cooler that we're seeing Maya go through this instead, because the character has always had this creepy science vibe going, way stronger than Clovis did, especially since one of her simulated selves seems to have tortured Clovis himself while on the operating table. That bit's crazy, by the way. But in this week's lore tab, we get some interesting material from her, describing the moment she was able to break free from the network and declare herself an individual once more. I'll read the relevant bits. My first thought when I wake, I must tell Chioma what happened. What a thrill. Every aspect will fascinate her. Entering the veil felt like an existential disrobing, the willing extraction of myself from my matter, shedding my body as a slip, and diving into an infinite well of collective thought. You will marvel at how I was able to survive, buoyed by countless threads of connection and universal consciousness. How I rode the wave aloft kept me constant, myself as my own, to stand separate and singular from the gravity of the immeasurable collective. She'll be proud, she'll come with me a second time. We'll dive through worlds together, loved and beloved. Neptune can wait. I left the reach of the Veil's thread when I collided with the familiar angles of the Vex network, didn't I? Yes, I did. When I find her, I must reassure her that I remained myself. It was so tempting there, tumbling from the memories of a being that groans in a staccato radiation to the mournful dirge of a planet itself. The universe is aware, it is alive, and I rode its riptides far enough that for a while I was worried that my voice may thin into the chorus. But I was able to stay together through the only conviction that remained, that I am true, that although I felt innumerable mysteries in that place without form, I remained Maya all the same. Even among an endless universe, I was always distinct, a sensation, impact, pressure, contact. I am not certain I have hands, but whatever part of me exists is touching an object. It woke me. I am me, and I need to sit up. Everything is fluid, but the urge to rise sloshes what part of me I decide is mine upwards, forwards. I have no eyes, no heart, but I feel for my edges and sense that they are endless, liquid expanse that plunges into the seams of the planet itself. Unnerving, intriguing. It seems I am matter again. I recall Lakshmi too, a fine false maquette, and hold its memory in place as I cling tight to the object in my hand. Shape me a body. My outline condenses. I define my silhouette, my limbs, my fingers. What good was 1.5 meters of heartburn at night and high cholesterol? My body is now a vast and flawless sea. As I form my neck, I lift the object in my hand, and it shapes in turn. I wear it as a mantle, as a prize. I reach through my new body, and at the core of me, I am filled with acidic wriggling, the sour milk of the Vex. I purge them out. I am not Vex, I assert, and they spill from me as bile. What I am left with is an exoframe, and the mantle at my neck, and a new voice in the back of my mind. I finish my eyes and see the current milk dormant at my feet. I am unharmed, and still I am not Vex. They respond to my command. I realize my hand at the mantle around my neck. Tell me, how long has passed since I last encountered the Vex? They do. Through the Vex at my feet, they whisper it in unencoded ease. The number is gargantuan. I begin to panic. It is impossible. And my first thought is of her. Her. Tell me where Chioma Essie is. They search, and they tell me the woman who holds my heart in her hands has laid in a grave for hundreds of years. In a rage, I tell them to mutilate one another. The milk at my feet boils in violence. My Chioma would not depart so mundanely. My Chioma would come find me. My Chioma is still here. My beloved does not rot in a grave. The world itself is broken. Time has snapped. Chioma, my world, my life, cannot be dead. She must have joined the Vexnet again. She would have searched for me there, sorted among the hundreds of copies of us to find the true version of myself. Her Maya, so too I will search. I love her. I would know her in the darkness of a cave and the blinding glare of a sun. She is unique in all ways, precious and without fault. I know the real Chioma is alive. Primary query. Find the true Chioma Essie. I command through my tears. She is out there, searching for me. In turn, I will find the Chioma I already love. I know this. I know this. I really like where they're going with Maya. I really do. Because she recognizes her other identities. Her original human self on Neptune, which I didn't know she was human when she went to Neptune. I assumed that they were already Exo at the end of the Golden Age, but I guess I was wrong. She recognizes her other identities, her duplicate Lakshmi 2 of the future war cult, and her simulated selves within the Vex network, eventually becoming Maya 12. Having lived all these different lives via her simulated selves, she offers something that the Vex don't have.
Imagination.
Imagination. And with the Echo of Command, she's able to give them that, to strengthen her Vex by making them act different. And I think this exotic mission finally does exactly that, and shows us why her Vex are so different. This season, for the most part, I was kind of unimpressed, because they were like, oh, the Vex are changing and stuff, but really all we see are Precursor Vex resurfacing, and now the Soul Collective have this compelled collars around their neck. So, you know, it was like, oh, big whoop. But I think when it comes to the behavior and structure of enemies and the environment of the mission, we finally get to see that they are acting different. Additionally, I'd like to add that this season, I do like that new transmat effect they have, where they have like that little dome where they keep on coming out of. I think that's a lot cooler than what we've gotten them before. It makes their spawning a lot more unique, you know? Because, like, I can understand the Hive just teleporting in. You know, the Fallen, they always come on skiffs. And Cabal in Destiny 2, they always come out with their drop pods. So, what do the Vex have? They just teleport in? No. I like that they have a little dome now. They're able to have like a defensive shield that they can use. It adds an interesting variable to gameplay. But whatever. Maya is reforming the Vex into a faction that may have its individuality now, giving them stuff to think about, to be able to forge their own destiny, which would be fine, I guess, if they weren't trying to turn everyone else into Vex. Like, think about it. Is individual Vex, I think, would actually probably weaken the Vex, if I'm being honest, because they've always been so organized, and, you know, it hasn't guided them wrong all these years, but I guess individuality would make them a lot less vulnerable to something like the Taken or something. But whatever, that's off topic. Whatever, that's really off topic. Like Concordat says, Maya's taking comfort in the familiar by remaking the Ishtar structures on Nessus. It almost has me convinced that we could end up getting back to Venus somehow. I mean, they already started remastering some of those assets because they made Vogue. Maybe, just maybe, they'll remake some more areas, and maybe it'll be a new expansion soon enough. Maybe Maya might retreat after we fail to capture her this season, but maybe we'll seize the Echo of Command for ourselves. I don't know, because honestly, a change like this to the Vex doesn't feel like a single season thing. At least it shouldn't be, unless they do mean to wrap up this loose end for some reason. Maya is looking to revert the universe back to a time like the Golden Age. She believes that by merging ourselves with the Vex, that we could achieve that. And she's using Chioma as a way to find that Golden Age. Like, oh look, it's gonna be the time where Chioma still loves her. It's gonna be the time where things are so perfect, right? And she believes that merging ourselves with the Vex is the way to achieve that. And really, for the Vex, is business as usual, because they've always sought to become one with the universe. That if every world were Vex, if they would ensure their own survival for all time, that every timeline would end the same way, that it may end with the Vex and nothing but the Vex, you know? They'd become a mathematical inevitability. And with these Vexos, she may be seen to blur the line between species as they are and the Vex. Deep into the domain, we find a recording of Maya interrogating a Vexo hybrid frame implanted with a simulation of Chioma, one that Maya deemed flawed and defective. The conversation sounds ripped from Deepstone Crypt lore. Clovis might have been a mad scientist, but Maya definitely takes the cake on this one, because now she's always been, like, actually insane. We see this frame splayed and dissected and merged with Vex technology, far from what Exos were meant to be. There's even this giant head one, not as big as Clovis's, but there's like a big head with like pipes coming out of it and stuff. This is how she's prototyping what she envisions as the perfect future, you know? Searching for the lost golden age among a vast ocean of data. It's unclear whether she can or cannot find what she's looking for, but it is a matter of time. Like Osiris says, there's no mention about changing what they might be capable of, but we know the Vex have never been able to accurately simulate paracausality. But maybe with the Echo, with their own set of paracausal forces at their command, they might be able to achieve what they're looking for. This all makes me wonder, like, does she actually have control? Like, is she actually controlling the Echo of Command, or is the Echo of Command controlling her? Ikora says that Maya has exactly what she wants, control, right? But does she? Does she really? This feels like a red herring, right? Like here's this thing. We already said that she's in control, but maybe they're gonna subvert that later. Are the voices that she mentions actually the one in control? Because, like, you know, in Mind Body, the Lotta we just read, she mentions that there's a voice in the back of her mind still talking to her, you know? Like, this could be the Vex themselves but it's probably the Echo. And it's got me thinking, what is the voice within the Echo, right? Is it... It's unclear if it is the Echo itself. Maybe it's the Traveler, who knows? If it's the Winnower, or a Vex mind coercing her. Is it that great quiet one that lies in the network? Because we know that it interacted with it. What exactly even is the quiet one? Is Satomi involved with this in some way? Again, I don't mean to plug, but I have a video about the quiet thing, the quiet one theory, and I think it poses a great question that is super relevant to this season. Pay attention to the vocabulary. I mentioned voices. We're hearing voices. Maya is hearing voices. If her search for an accurate Chioma simulation is this fruitless, then who's to say her own control is what's actually commanding here, you know? I do have to say this as a Vex fanboy. I'm really liking this season. I do. Alright? Because Choir of One displays when the Vex don't understand something, their default is to worship it. They did it in the Black Garden, and they're doing it now. When the Vex aren't able to simulate, predict, or overcome a variable, their response leads to study, and the study leads to reverence. And it's clear that they now revere the Conductor, the once human, now turned Vex subjugator, and this changes what's going to make the Vex more interesting as we continue down this path, because the Vex's gods have been dead for a while, you know? We destroyed the Black Heart twice now. We prevented the resurrection of the Black Heart, and we destroyed the Sanctified Mind. You know, this it's gonna get interesting. But that's about it for this video. I wanted to say this before I go though. I've been meaning to do this for a few weeks now, but this is the first time I remember to put it in my script. But from now on, I'm gonna be putting credits for my patrons' names at the end of the videos, as a thanks for supporting all of my creative endeavors. If you didn't know, my Patreon grants you access to a growing 3D model library. Currently, there's... how many models do we have on there? Let me open it. Yeah, we have 81 3D assets, and you get access to that immediately when you pay the $5. Currently, there are 2 available tiers. I closed the mid tier because I didn't think it offered much more compared to the base tier. But yeah, if you join at the robot tier, you'll be getting access to a 3D model library. Please do not redistribute these models. These models are for use only in your own 3D projects, be it animation or game production, or illustration, if you'd like to do that too. So thank you to my supporters there for making my work possible. And I hope you guys have a great week. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Hello, Guardian. Oh.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi?